Republican State Representative Bryan Posthumus has introduced a constitutional amendment that requires proof of citizenship to register to vote and require a photo ID to cast a ballot. Right now in Michigan, when registering to vote, you will check a box indicating whether you are a citizen under penalty of perjury. It's also not required to have a photo ID to vote. If you do not have one, you sign an affidavit. The West Michigan representative wants to make sure these requirements are in Michigan's state constitution. Another piece of the amendment says that if you cannot afford a state-issued ID, one would be provided for you. Posthumus says this amendment is a no-brainer.
Ultimately, what I wanted to make sure that we were doing is making it as easy to vote as possible and as difficult to cheat as possible. And that's where we landed.
However, Democratic Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson is against this amendment. In a statement, she says, quote, "Here are the facts. This is a failed policy that has already been tried in other states. In those states, it has either been overturned by the courts for being blatantly unconstitutional, created a separate and unequal system of voting access for citizens, or blocked tens of thousands of eligible voters from casting their legal ballot in an election. For example, in Kansas, a proof of citizenship requirement was passed more than a decade ago. That ended up blocking the voter registrations of more than 31,000 U.S. citizens who were otherwise eligible to vote. Federal courts later declared it unconstitutional. Now, moving forward, getting a constitutional amendment approved is different than typical legislation. There are two paths. One, the legislature can put the proposal on the ballot, which happens when the amendment passes both the House and the Senate with a 2/3 vote. Or citizens can gather petition signatures to amend the Constitution through a ballot initiative. Posthumus says the goal is to get the measure on the ballot in November of 2026.